The way data templates work in general is that you're going to have some data-bound control, and it's either going to be a content control or some control derived from items control in general, such as listbox, combo box, or data grid. Let's start with the content control case. Content control, if you're not familiar, has a single content property that can be set to a UI element, and it will render that UI element in the child area. So the child area is really a blank canvas in which the content can be rendered. In this case, though, we're supplying the content as a data-bound object. Happens to be a view model in this case. And this is where data templates come in, is that a data template can provide the visual structure for how to render that data object into that child content area. So we then supply a data template, and the data template has some structure to it. In this case, we've just got a child user control as the structure of that data template, as the nested element. And when these come together in the data binding context, that data template provides the visual structure for the data-bound object that is the content. Now, a really important part of data templates to understand is that when a data template gets rendered, the data context property of the root element in that data template, in this case the hierarchical data templates view, its data context will be set to the instance of the data-bound object that is being rendered. So in this case, the current view model object will be set as the data context for that hierarchical data templates view. Now, in the case of an items control, such as a list box, combo box, or data grid, first off, you're going to be binding to a collection of data objects. And the idea is you want to have a visual representation for each one of those collection objects. So you provide a data template and hook it in either explicitly or explicitly, as we'll cover in this module. And that data template provides that visual structure for how do I render a single product object in this case. So here we have a grid with an image and a couple of rows in it to provide the name and description for that product. So that data template basically lays down what is the visual structure for that data object. Within the data template, we have individual bindings, and you can see that they're just binding with simple paths to properties on a single product object. This works because, again, whenever a data template is rendered, the data context of the root element is set to the data object it's being rendered for. In this case, a product object. So that data context flows down the visual tree of this data template, making that data context available to those child bindings. And then in the case of an items control, this all comes together in that the list box in this case will render out a single instance of that data template for each product object in the collection it's bound to, setting the data context of that single instance to that product object. And that's basically how data templates work at a high level. So now let's look at the different ways to get them hooked up and the different variants of data templates.